You think you are safe because you are at the top of the food chain. But the only reason you are a predator is because the sky is currently empty. If you were transported back 66 million years, you wouldn't be the explorer. You would be the calories. Welcome to the prehistoric sky, a place where gravity was a suggestion and mercy did not exist. In this simulation, we are going to place modern humanity against the entities nature had to delete. Meet Tom. He is 6 feet tall, an athlete, and a representative of the peak of our species. Tom is standing on a balcony on the 20th floor of a skyscraper in New York City. He feels safe because, in 2026, the only thing that flies this high is a bird or a plane. But as the simulation begins, the modern silence is shattered by a sound like a wet sail snapping in a hurricane. A shadow crosses the sun, and the temperature on the balcony seems to drop 10 degrees. The Quetzalcoatlus Northropy has arrived, and it is not looking at the view. It is looking at Tom. From a distance, the Quetzalcoatlus looks like a small airplane, its wingspan stretching nearly 40 feet across. But as it closes the gap at 80 miles per hour, the biological horror becomes clear. This isn't a bird. There are no soft feathers, no melodic chirping, no hollow beauty. It is a mass of leathery membranes, reinforced muscle, and a neck as stiff as a steel girder. Tom tries to run inside, but he is already too late. The Quetzalcoatlus doesn't need to land to kill. Its beak is 6 feet long, a pair of serrated biological shears that can exert enough pressure to snap a young titanosaur's spine. In one fluid motion, the entity reaches over the railing, its beak entering the room like a spear. Tom doesn't even have time to scream before he is plucked from the floor and swallowed whole. The Quetzalcoatlus doesn't chew. Its throat is a vacuum that pulls Tom into a dark, acidic end. This is the first lesson of the prehistoric sky. Size is the only law that matters. But let's scale the simulation up. Let's talk about our technology. You might think our modern aircraft would dominate these ancient kings. Imagine a Boeing 737 cruising at 30,000 feet, filled with 200 passengers. To us, this is a marvel of engineering. To a high-altitude pterosaur, it is a territorial insult. Meet the Azhdarchid, a phantom with a neck so long it defies the laws of structural integrity. It glides on the jet stream, using almost no energy, its wings spanning 35 feet of cold skin. When it encounters a passenger jet, it doesn't see a machine, it sees a rival. The Azhdarchid doesn't need to blow up the plane to win, it only needs to collide. Its bones are built like honeycombs light, enough to fly but strong enough to pierce. A mid-air collision between a 12-meter pterosaur and a jet engine is an instant catastrophe. The biological debris clogs the turbines, the wing is sheared by the impact of a 500-pound body, and the plane falls. Nature didn't need missiles. It had mass, velocity, and a total lack of fear. Let's bring the simulation back to the ground, where you think you are protected by your cities. If the Azhdarchid landed in Times Square, it wouldn't try to fly away. It would fold its wings into massive, stilt-like front legs and begin to walk. At 18 feet tall, its head would be level with the digital billboards and the traffic lights. It would move through the streets of New York like a demonic giraffe, its eyes scanning the crowds. The Azhdarchid was the tyrant of the air, but it was a terrestrial nightmare. It lived on an island in ancient Europe where there were no large predatory dinosaurs to challenge it, so it filled the niche of the T-Rex. It became a walking, flying tank. Its skull was nearly 10 feet long wide, heavy and built for crushing bone. In our simulation, a Azhdarchid wouldn't just eat Tom. It would eat the car Tom is sitting in. It would use its massive beak to peel back the roof of a taxi like a tin can to get to the protein inside. You cannot run from it because its stride is 20 feet long. You cannot hide from it because it can see the heat of your breath from a block away. But why was the prehistoric sky so much more dangerous than the ocean or the land? The answer lies in the launch. A modern bird has to use its legs to jump and its wings to flap, a two-step process that limits their size. Pterosaurs used a quadrupedal launch. They used their wings as catapults, pushing off the ground with 4 limbs simultaneously. This allowed them to launch 500 pounds of muscle into the air in less than a second. Imagine a creature the size of a giraffe suddenly exploding into flight right in front of you. The sonic boom from the winklap would shatter the windows of every house on your street. The air displacement would be enough to flip a van and throw a human being 30 feet into a wall. This is the physical reality of these entities. They were living explosions. Now, consider the simulation of a maritime crossing. You are on a luxury cruise ship in the middle of the Atlantic, feeling invincible. But beneath the clouds, the Nyctosaurus is circling, its massive head crest acting as a sail. While the Nyctosaurus is smaller, it is a master of the open water. It doesn't need to land, can glide for months, dipping its needle-like beak into the water to pluck fish. But in our simulation, it isn't interested in fish. It sees the movement on the deck, the children playing, the people tanning. It drops from the sun at 100 miles per hour, silent, invisible against the glare. By the time the shadow hits the deck, the person is already gone, carried into the stratosphere. There is no struggle. There is only the sound of the wind and the sudden realization that the sky is hungry. But we must talk about the shadow kings, the ones that haven't been fully named. Paleontology is limited by what the Earth chooses to keep. Most pterosaur bones are as thin as paper. They don't fossilize well, they crumble into dust. But every few decades, we find a fragment that breaks our understanding of biology. In the deserts of Jordan, we found a single vertebra so large, it suggests an entity with a 50-foot wingspan. This is the 11th entity. If this creature existed, it would be the absolute limit of what a heart can pump. Its wings would be the size of a basketball court. When it took off, the pressure change would be so intense, it would cause internal bleeding in nearby humans. It would be a weather event, not an animal. It would live in the thin air of the upper atmosphere, only descending to feed on the largest life forms on the planet. In our modern world, this entity would be a god. It would be a catastrophe. So why aren't they here? Why is Tom safe on his balcony today? Nature hit the delete button because the world changed its settings. 66 million years ago, the oxygen levels were higher and the planet was a greenhouse. The air was thicker, providing more lift for these massive biological sails. When the asteroid hit and the climate shifted, the fuel for these giants ran out. Their hearts were too big to sustain in a cold world. Their wings were too large for a thin atmosphere. Nature realized that to save the planet, it had to remove the kings. It replaced the Quetzalcoatlus with the sparrow, replaced the nightmare with the songbird. It traded power for efficiency. It traded gods for survivors. We live in the aftermath of a biological war that the giants lost. But look at Tom one last time. He is standing in the ruins of the simulation, surrounded by the shadows of creatures that could have ended our species. If these entities had survived, the human race would have never left the caves. We would have been a subterranean species, terrified to ever look at the sun. Our entire architecture, our technology, our very culture is built on the fact that the sky is empty. We build glass skyscrapers because we don't expect a beak to shatter them. We fly planes because we don't expect a territorial god to shear off the wings. We are arrogant because we are alone. But the fossils are a warning. The Earth has grown giants before, and it will do it again. Evolution is a cycle of growth and deletion. Right now we are in the growth phase. We are the ones taking up space. But somewhere in the deep code of biology, the blueprint for the giant is still there. The sky is waiting for the oxygen to rise. It is waiting for the world to warm up. It is waiting for a reason to bring the kings back. Until then, the sparrow will keep singing, and Tom will keep feeling safe. But the next time you are outside, and the wind suddenly picks up for no reason, the next time you see a cloud that looks a bit too much like a leathery wing, don't just look down at your phone. Look up. Because 66 million years is a long time, but for the Earth, it is just a blink. And when the Earth blinks again, the delete button might be pointing at us. The prehistoric sky wasn't just a place, it was a warning of what happens when life becomes too powerful. The kings are dead. Long live the kings. But remember, the sky doesn't belong to you. You are just renting it. And the landlord has a very long memory. Sleep well, Tom. The sun is setting. And in the dark, the shadows of the giants always look a little bit bigger. The simulation is over, but the reality is buried beneath your feet. Wait for the next heartbeat of the planet, because the sky is never truly empty. It's just holding its breath.